So this is why it's so important to have that good antivirus program and make sure that it's updated and constantly being updated. There are new definitions that are coming out daily, sometimes hourly, that identify what these these viruses are, what this malware is. Some of these are difficult to get at, and they're really looking for families of viruses because people take different bits of code and piece them together. So you want to make sure you have that and you update it, and it's constantly updated. Making sure your systems are updated, making sure you're using proper operating systems that have their most recent security updates. This also extends to with medical practices, and I've been seeing some of this. It extends to medical devices. There are a lot of medical devices now that are having issues. There's, you've got infusion pumps, you've got, pacemakers that can access your network. It's not a bad idea if those are older, haven't been updated. If you haven't gone through an update protocol for those, it's not a bad idea to isolate those off of your main network. That is probably an issue for larger providers. For smaller providers, it may not be such a big issue, but it's something to keep aware of, and make sure that if software updates come from manufacturers, to look at. I know FDA was looking at some infusion devices and recommending that that people either upgrade and/or stop using allowing them access to their networks because they were considered a vulnerability. And I think part of that problem is they were still running off Windows XP. So making sure that you're updating to, so that you're using modern and updated, operating systems. Again, being cautious of unexpected email attachments. If you shouldn't be opening everything willy-nilly. If it's a zip file, if it's an exe file coming to your PC, it's a good idea to make sure you're deleting those, but before you open attachments, make sure your virus protection is set to scan those. And I cannot reiterate this enough, back up regularly. This should be either ongoing, you can do what they call incremental backups, differential backups, but whatever you end up doing, make sure you're backing up and maybe have multiple backups. For myself personally, I use a cloud backup system as well as use local backups so that I have different versions, and I'm a little bit neurotic about that because I've lost a couple of hard drives along the way. I think I had a 6-month period where I lost like 4 hard drives in that 6 months, and that's very nerve-wracking, and luckily I had backups and was able to recover all that information. But realizing that hard drives, especially the drives that we use these days, they are vulnerable. They will fail. Especially, I think if they don't fail within the first 6 months, they usually are pretty good for a while, but then once it gets past about 2 to 3 years, the rate of failure goes up almost exponentially. So if you have older drives in your systems, just make sure you're backing those up. You don't necessarily have to replace them right away, but make sure you're definitely backing them up.